No, Lisa, I've already told you. Today isn't a good day for swimming. Amanda's voice dripped with fake sweetness through the phone. James and Sophie need their private swim time. You understand, right? Maybe try the public pool. I gripped my phone tighter, watching my kids' faces fall as they heard their aunt's rejection yet again. It was the hottest day of the summer, and my twins, Lily and Lucas, both 7, had been begging to use the family pool all week. Amanda, it's 95 degrees, I said, trying to keep my voice level. The public pool is packed, and the kids haven't been able to swim at your house all summer. They're your niece and nephew. Well, if you taught them to be quieter, maybe they could come more often. James and Sophie need their peace and quiet. They're training for the junior swim team, you know. Of course I knew. It was all Amanda ever talked about, how her precious 12-year-olds were future Olympic champions who couldn't be disturbed by their younger cousins splashing. I hung up and turned to my disappointed twins. Lily's lower lip trembled while Lucas kicked at the ground, both still in the swimsuits they'd hopefully put on that morning. I'm sorry, sweethearts, I said, pulling them close. How about we get some ice cream instead? It's not fair, Mom, Lucas mumbled into my shirt. Why doesn't Aunt Amanda like us? My heart broke a little. This wasn't the first time Amanda had excluded my children, but seeing their hurt faces never got easier. Since moving into her new house with the giant pool last year, she turned what should have been a fun family gathering spot into her personal kingdom. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I sat on our back porch staring at our large yard. My husband, Mike, found me there, 2 glasses of wine in hand. Rough day, he asked, settling beside me. Amanda rejected us again. I sighed, accepting the wine. I just don't understand it, Mike. When did she become so exclusive? We all grew up swimming in that pool at Mom and Dad's old house. Now she acts like it's some elite country club. Mike took a thoughtful sip. You know, I've been thinking. This yard is pretty big. I turned to look at him, raising an eyebrow. What are you suggesting? Well, he grinned. I may have been doing some research. Above-ground pools have come a long way. And with my construction background, we could build something really special. Not just for us, but maybe? Maybe what? Maybe for other families too. I've noticed we're not the only ones Amanda's excluded. Remember Sarah from down the street? Her kids aren't welcome either. Neither are the Thompsons twins. I sat up straighter, ideas beginning to form. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? A community pool. Nothing too fancy, but somewhere all the kids could swim. We could make it safe, supervised, inclusive. I looked around our yard with new eyes. The space that had always seemed a bit too big to maintain suddenly felt full of possibility. It would be a lot of work, I mused, and expensive. I've got some savings, Mike said. And I bet if we reach out to other families, they'd be willing to help. We could create something really special here, Lisa. Something that brings people together instead of pushing them apart. As we sat there planning, I felt excitement building. This could be more than just a pool. It could be a statement about the kind of community we wanted to create. The next morning, I started making calls. Sarah was immediately enthusiastic, offering to help with permits and paperwork since she worked at City Hall. The Thompsons, both teachers, volunteered to organize a schedule and safety protocols. Other neighbors offered supplies, labor, and funds. Within weeks, our backyard transformation was underway. Mike led the construction, teaching willing neighbors basic building skills as they worked. Our yard became a hub of activity, with people stopping by daily to help or just check on the progress. The kids were fascinated by it all. Lily and Lucas appointed themselves official construction helpers, proudly wearing the tiny hard hats Mike got them. They spent hours watching the pool take shape, their disappointment over Amanda's rejection gradually replaced by excitement for what was coming. One Saturday morning, as volunteers worked on the decking, I heard a familiar voice behind me. Lisa, what's going on here? I turned to find my mother standing there, looking confused. News of our project obviously hadn't reached her yet. Hi, Mom, I said, straightening up from where I'd been staining boards. We're building a pool. A community pool, actually, for everyone's kids to enjoy. She looked around, taking in the busy scene, neighbors working together, kids playing nearby, the sense of community that had already started forming. But why? You know, Amanda has a perfectly good pool. Does she? I asked quietly, because from where I stand, having a pool that excludes family isn't perfectly good at all. Mom fell silent, watching as Lily and Lucas ran past with lemonade for the workers, beaming with pride at their contribution. "They look happy," she finally said. "They are. This is about more than just swimming, Mom. It's about creating a place where everyone feels welcome, where no child has to feel rejected or left out." As I watched understanding dawn in her eyes, I knew this project was already accomplishing exactly what we'd hoped. It wasn't just about building a pool. It was about building connections, breaking down walls, and showing our children what real family values looked like. And this was just the beginning. The community pool project continued to grow in ways I never expected. What started as a response to Amanda's exclusion had blossomed into something truly remarkable. Every weekend, more neighbors showed up to help, bringing their skills, supplies, and enthusiasm. One morning, I was reviewing safety equipment orders when Sarah rushed over, practically bouncing with excitement. "Lisa, you won't believe what just happened. I was at City Hall processing our pool permits, and the Parks and Recreation Director overheard me talking about the project. He loves the idea. They want to feature us in the community newsletter as an example of neighborhood unity." I smiled, thinking how different this was from Amanda's exclusive approach. Our pool wasn't even finished yet, and it was already bringing people together. The physical transformation of our backyard was stunning. Mike's design included a large L-shaped pool with a shallow end perfect for younger kids. The surrounding deck was spacious enough for families to set up chairs and umbrellas. We added storage cubbies for pool toys and safety equipment, and the Thompsons organized a schedule of parent volunteers for supervision. Lily and Lucas had become the unofficial welcoming committee for the project. They set up a little stand where they served lemonade to the workers and kept a progress journal with photos and notes about each day's achievements. "Mom, look," Lily called one afternoon, holding up their journal. "We got 10 more signatures today. That's 30 families who want to join our pool club." The pool club was their term for the informal community group we'd formed to manage the pool. Unlike Amanda's exclusive approach, our only requirements were following safety rules and taking turns helping with maintenance. But not everyone was thrilled with our project. One evening, as Mike and I were reviewing the final touches needed before filling the pool, we heard the unmistakable sound of Amanda's SUV pulling into our driveway. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she demanded, marching into our backyard without invitation. "Mom told me about this public swimming hole you're building. Do you have any idea how this makes me look?" I took a deep breath, determined to stay calm. "How it makes you look? I'm not sure what you mean, Amanda." "Don't play innocent," she snapped. "You're doing this to spite me, aren't you? Because I wouldn't let your kids disturb James and Sophie's training." Before I could respond, a small voice piped up from behind me. "That's not true, Aunt Amanda." We turned to see Lucas standing there, his progress journal clutched to his chest. "We're building this pool so everyone can swim together. Nobody gets left out here." Amanda's face flushed. "Left out? My children aren't left out. They're elite athletes. They need their space, they're quiet. You wouldn't understand." "Actually," Mike said, joining us, "I think Lucas understands perfectly. This pool isn't about excluding anyone. Even James and Sophie are welcome to swim here. The difference is, they'll need to share the space and respect others, just like everyone else." Amanda's mouth opened and closed several times, but no words came out. Finally, she turned on her heel and stormed back to her car, leaving a tense silence in her wake. Later that night, I found Lily and Lucas sitting on the edge of the unfinished deck, their legs dangling. "Are you okay?" I asked, settling between them. I knew that wasn't easy, hearing Aunt Amanda talk like that. "We're okay, Mom," Lily said, leaning against me. "Actually, we feel kind of sorry for James and Sophie." "You do?" Lucas nodded. "Yeah, they never get to just have fun swimming anymore. Everything's always about training and being quiet and being elite. That sounds boring." I hugged them close, marveling at their wisdom. They were right. Amanda's pursuit of exclusivity and perfection was robbing her own children of the simple joy of playing in the water with friends. The next few days were a flurry of activity as we prepared for the pool's grand opening. The Parks and Recreation Department sent a photographer to document the community project. Local businesses, hearing about our initiative, donated pool toys and safety equipment. Even the ice cream truck driver asked if he could include our pool in his regular route. The night before the opening, I stood in our transformed backyard, taking it all in. The pool was filled, its water gleaming under the security lights. The deck was finished, dotted with colorful umbrellas and chairs. Safety rules were clearly posted, emergency equipment was in place, and the schedule board showed 3 months of volunteer slots already filled. Mike wrapped his arms around me from behind. Proud of what we've created. More than proud, I replied, leaning back against him. I just keep thinking about what Lily and Lucas said about James and Sophie. Maybe this will show Amanda there's a better way. Maybe he agreed. But even if it doesn't, we've still done something amazing here. Look at how many families have come together because of this project. He was right. What had started as a response to rejection had grown into something far more meaningful. We built more than just a pool, we'd built a community. As we headed inside, I noticed a small figure standing at our front gate. It was Sophie, Amanda's daughter, watching the pool with longing eyes. When she saw me notice her, she quickly turned and ran away, but not before I caught the wistful expression on her face. Tomorrow's opening day would be interesting indeed. Opening day dawned bright and warm. Perfect swimming weather. By 9 in the morning, families were already arriving, kids bouncing with excitement as their parents helped set up chairs and umbrellas around the deck. Lily and Lucas proudly handed out pool passes, simple laminated cards they'd helped design with names, emergency contacts, and basic safety rules. The joy on their faces as they welcomed everyone made my heart swell. "Mom," Lily called out suddenly, "look who's here." I turned to see my mother walking through the gate, looking somewhat uncertain. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, trying to appear invisible, were James and Sophie. "The kids begged to come," Mom explained quietly when she reached me. "Amanda's at a swim meet consultation and, well, I thought maybe just this once." I knelt down to James and Sophie's level. They stood awkwardly in their matching team swimsuits, looking both eager and nervous. "You're always welcome here," I said warmly. "The only rules are, be safe and have fun. Think you can manage that?" They nodded enthusiastically, and I noticed Sophie clutching a regular pool toy, something I'd never seen her with before. Usually she only had training equipment. Can we just play?" James asked hesitantly, as if expecting the answer to be no. "That's exactly what this pool is for." I smiled, watching their faces light up. Within minutes they were in the water, splashing with Lily, Lucas, and the other kids. For the first time, I saw them just being children. No pressure, no performance expectations, just pure joy. The morning flew by in a blur of laughter, splashing, and community spirit. Parents took turns monitoring the pool while others organized games and activities. The ice cream truck's familiar jingle drew everyone out for a brief treat break, creating an impromptu poolside party. Then, around noon, a hush fell over the crowd. Amanda stood at the gate, her face unreadable as she took in the scene, especially her children playing Marco Polo with their cousins and new friends. I walked over, preparing for another confrontation, but before I could speak, Sophie's voice rang out across the pool. "Mom, come watch me. I learned how to do a handstand underwater." Something shifted in Amanda's expression as she watched Sophie demonstrate her new skill. Not perfect, not competition worthy, but performed with pure happiness. "I haven't seen her smile like that in months," Amanda said quietly, almost to herself. "They're still great swimmers," I offered gently, "but they're also kids who deserve to have fun sometimes." Amanda was quiet for a long moment, watching James join a game of volleyball while Sophie taught Lily her handstand technique. "I thought," she began, then stopped. "I thought I was doing the right thing, pushing them to excel. But looking at them now," she turned to me, her eyes glistening. "I've been horrible, haven't I? To them, to you, to everyone." "Not horrible," I corrected. "Just maybe a little lost in the pursuit of perfection. But it's never too late to change course." As if on cue, both James and Sophie called out, "Mom, come swim with us." Amanda hesitated, looking down at her designer outfit. I held out one of the spare swimsuits we kept on hand for guests. "What do you say, sis? Ready to remember what it's like to just have fun in the water?" To my surprise, and everyone else's, she took the swimsuit and disappeared into the changing room. When she emerged, she looked younger somehow, less rigid, and when she joined her kids in the pool, their delighted laughter seemed to wash away years of tension. By the end of the day, as families began packing up and heading home, Amanda pulled me aside. "I don't suppose She started, then squared her shoulders and continued. I don't suppose you could use another parent volunteer on the schedule. Maybe we could coordinate some basic swim lessons for the younger kids. I smiled and handed her a sign-up sheet. Welcome to the community, Amanda. That evening, as Mike and I sat on our deck, watching the sunset reflect off the quiet pool water, I thought about how sometimes the best response to exclusion isn't to fight back, but to build something better, something that brings people together instead of pushing them apart. Mom, Lily and Lucas appeared in their pajamas. Can we have our bedtime story out here tonight? Of course, I said, patting the space between us. As they snuggled in, Lucas asked, do you think Aunt Amanda will really help with swim lessons? I replied, watching the last rays of sun sparkle on the water, that when you build bridges instead of walls, amazing things can happen. And in the gentle evening breeze, with my family close and the sound of distant children's laughter still echoing in my memory, I knew we created something truly special, not just a pool, but a place where family meant including everyone, where community meant supporting each other, and where the simple joy of swimming could bring out the best in all of us.